Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to give a proclamation to our Japanese-American World War II veterans. Many of you probably appreciate that we went through a rather dark period in our country's history immediately after Pearl Harbor, a time when we did not treat people well. And really about 2,000 citizens were forced to leave their homes. They were in internment camps. It was not one of our brighter moments as a country. But in 1943, that sentiment began to change, and we had a number of very brave Japanese Americans who stepped forward and said, we want to serve our country. This is our country, and we want to serve in it. And we have representatives today of one of those units that experienced the highest casualties of any unit in our armed forces at that time, the 442nd Regiment, which saw action, in all the places that you really said to yourself, oh my goodness, will I come home in one piece? And most of their colleagues did not. But Terry Shima, who now lives in Gaithersburg, has made a lifetime, really, of making sure that we as a community do not forget what they did and their sacrifice. And so, Mr. Shima, we would be most grateful for you to join us and come forward here. And with those who have come with you, you can invite. You
Sure.
may. So, and Mr. County Executive, did you want to speak, please?
I want to join with Mr. Berliner and recognizing those who have served, not just in this war, but all wars, but most particularly this war, because one of the tenets of our history and legacy is to treat people with dignity and respect, to be treated in a way described by historians in a way that was not befitting of America, but yet and still to come forth and to serve under some very difficult circumstances and conditions. There's a historical piece that is out now on Showtime talking about the untold story of American history that clearly reflects much of what we've talked about here today. So I want to, on behalf of all of our nearly 1 million residents, first of all, to offer our apologies, more importantly, to thank you and all of those who've served over so many years. And that just does not go to the service personnel, but to their families and their children who suffered as well. And so this is our attempt to thank you, but we can never fully thank you enough for your service, and we can never move away the scars and the pain that people have suffered in the past. But it's our recognition today to at least to continue that process.
Mr. Shima, before you speak, let me read this proclamation in your honor, in the honor of all of your community who served us so beautifully. And please come forward. Whereas, when World War II began in December 1941, many Japanese Americans who wanted to join the military and fight for their country instead found themselves among the 117,000 persons who were labeled security risks and sent to internment camps scattered across the United States. And whereas in 1943, from those in internment camps, the United States military formed segregated units of volunteer Japanese Americans who would become the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, who would go on to fight in 8 major campaigns in Italy, France, Germany, and North Africa. And whereas the 442nd, combined with other units of Japanese Americans of the 100th Infantry Battalion, the 522nd Field Artillery Battalion, and more than 6,000 who joined the military intelligence services, went on to distinguish themselves proudly while serving their nation at war. And whereas the 442nd fought fiercely, embracing its motto of "Go for broke," in a manner such that 93% of all its members were either wounded or killed in action. But the feats of its soldiers were such that the 21 of its members were eventually awarded the Medal of Honor, our nation's highest military award, and the unit still holds the distinguished honor of being the most decorated unit in United States military history. And whereas full recognition of the 442nd did not occur until 70 years later, after the conclusion of the war, when on November 2nd, 2011, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor given to U.S. citizens, and many of those recognized had chosen to call Montgomery County their home over the past 7 decades. Now, therefore, do we, Isaiah Leggett as County Executive and Roger Berliner as County Council President, hereby recognize the Japanese American veterans of World War II and thank them for overcoming one of the most difficult periods in United States history and for making the heroic sacrifices that helped create the world as we know it today. Signed this 27th day of November in the year 2012, Isaiah Leggett, County Executive, and Roger Berliner, County Council President.
Montgomery County President Berliner, County Executive Leggett, honorable members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank the council for this very high honor. We are very grateful for the proclamation, sir, that you have just read. To say a few words, during the darkest days of the Japanese-American history immediately following the Pearl Harbor attack, when our loyalty was questioned and enlistments were prohibited, we petitioned the government to allow us to serve in combat, as Council President Berliner said. The Army responded by deploying the 100th Battalion, a segregated Japanese-American unit, to Italy, and subsequently activated the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, which was also deployed to Italy, and the two organizations merged. The Army gave us very tough assignments in Italy and France, including the rescue of the trapped Texas Battalion in the Vosges forests of northeastern France. They were doomed for annihilation. The 442nd sustained huge casualties, but saved 211 Texans. At the same time, some 3,000 Japanese Americans served in the Asia-Pacific theater as translators of captured enemy documents, as interrogators of prisoners of war, and as interceptors of enemy communication. They produced valuable intelligence, and General MacArthur called them his eyes and ears. When the war was over, America turned its attention to rebuilding America and the world. General Marshall reminded Washington there was still one more issue to resolve, and that was the Japanese issue, the integration of the Japanese into the American community. The Army called on the 442nd. The 442nd was returned from Italy as a group, marched down Constitution Avenue, and was reviewed by President Truman at the Ellipse. President Truman said, "You fought the enemy abroad, and you fought prejudice at home, and you won." This was the highest level effort on the part of the government to turn the tide of discrimination the other way. President Truman's words resonated across the country, supported by editorials, one of which won the Pulitzer. The combat performance record of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team and the Tuskegee Airmen contributed to the desegregation of to the reforms in the armed forces, including the desegregation. They leveled the playing field so all minorities could compete for any position and any rank. Fast forward to the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, 43 Japanese Americans would be serving as pilots and navigators of aircraft. They were served in the most sensitive war planning positions. They served in aircraft as pilots and navigators, all with ranks of major, lieutenant colonel, and colonels. During World War II, the highest rank of a Japanese American was a major, and there were only 4. Also, following the Vietnam War, over 40 Japanese Americans would be promoted to admirals and generals, with one serving as Chief of Staff of the United States Army, wearing 4 stars. On the civilian side, there would be equal reforms. The Commission on Wartime Relocation and the Internment of Civilians concluded that internment was not necessary, that it was caused by war hysteria, racial prejudice, and the failure of political leadership. Then, in August of 1988, the Civil Liberties Act was passed, where President Ronald Reagan offered a formal apology for the incarceration of 120,000 ethnic Japanese. More recently, the United States Senate selected from among them a Japanese American to serve as President pro tempore of the United States Senate, a position constitutionally that puts him 3rd in line for the presidency. And only 70 years ago, this same Japanese American was classified 4C, enemy alien, unfit for military duty. Ladies and gentlemen, what this speaks of the greatness of America. God bless the USA.
Do you want to speak to your children? And your children are here.
The students are from the Spark Matsunaga Elementary School, and the beautiful lady on the right is Miss Judy Brubaker, the principal. The Japanese American Veterans Association has
Gold Medal of Honor recipients for their service to our country. This was requested by myself and Supervisor Cook. We have with us, among others, Grant Ichikawa and Fred Murakami. If they could please come to the podium, as well as other Medal of Honor recipients who may be here with us as well. So please come on up to the podium. And let me read a resolution as everyone is coming forward. Whereas, each year in November, Veterans Day is a day of honor and remembrance for our military service men and women who have served our country on the battlefields at home and abroad. And whereas numerous unsung heroes are now able to receive the recognition they have so long deserved. And whereas during World War II, the members of the 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442nd Regiment Combat Team and the Military Intelligence Service of the United States were composed of Japanese American enlisted men and mostly white officers. And whereas since the American Revolution and Congress has commissioned gold medals as its highest expression of national appreciation for distinguished achievements and contributions, and whereas those brave and gallant men received this honor, one of the highest in the land, in 2010. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of all residents of Fairfax County, does hereby recognize with grateful appreciation and admiration the Fairfax County Congressional Gold Medal honorees and urges all residents to join in recognizing these men for their selfless acts of dedication and patriotism to their country. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by...
Sorry about that. Motion made by the chairman, seconded by Supervisor Cook. Is there discussion on the motion? Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'm pleased we were able to do this recognition today, and I'm just so honored that finally you've received the recognition that you've all very much deserved. And that was a extremely difficult time for our country. Back in World War II and before my time, but we need to recognize that and take advantage of learning from you. Those experiences so that we remember them. And it took a long time to get the congressional recognition that was certainly earned and well-deserved, and I'm just glad that we're able today to recognize your service from the county perspective, and thank you so much, and I hope that you will share your stories with us so that we can retain them in our history. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor
Is there
Cook.
additional discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Actually,
Yes.
let me just also say thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity, especially to thank our Japanese American Congressional Medal winners. This is, a really significant opportunity, I think, for us to say thank you to you for your service to your country and our country.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. First we'll vote,
All
and then we
those
turn
in
it over
favor
to
of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Chairman, that motion carries, and I give you back the gavel.
All right,
Okay.
and we're happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to say a few words on behalf of the Japanese American soldiers of World War II who fought both in the European and the Pacific Theater. We thank the members of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors and other government employees for taking this time and effort to leave a resolution thanking us for our service during World War II. The Congressional Gold Medal was awarded to us. Afterward, we were invited for a photo session and whatnot. And we thank the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for making the awarding of the Congressional Gold Medal to us a very memorable occasion that we will treasure for the rest of our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service to our country. We so much appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
If there's no, would you also like to say something?
Want to say something?
This is your opportunity.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then we can do
All right, let's do, we're going to have a photo. We're going to have a picture, and if everyone could please come forward here to the dais this way. And I see that we have other folks who may be here for this recognition. And let's first take a picture with you, and then I'll ask if others could come down and join us as well. And Supervisor Cook is going to join me, and the rest of the board will do the scrunch.
Okay.
You know what, you probably could. Plan to.
Yes.
Are there more to get in the picture?